I think it's the last little disconnected everything on the engine bay. Now I'm going to attempt to yank this in the box out. Alright, that's the new 7K motor. Unfortunately, it has a blown head gasket, so we're going to rebuild this thing. So what we're going to do first off is just strip it off all the stuff we don't really need off there. We're going to dummy fit it in the car before we rip it apart and start rebuilding it. So yeah, we'll just get down to stripping that down. Stripped all the vacuum lines off, all the stuff we're not going to use. The 7K engine mount has been yacked off, probably the wrecker. Going to see if a 4K mount fits it, and then we'll dummy fit it to the KE70. That's the 7K mount. That's the 4K mount. Actually, the 4K mount's much larger, so I think that's probably to compensate for the 7K's slightly girthier motor. I'll whack it on and give it a go, see how far it's off. Clears the cross member pretty well. The issue we have is right here. Is just on this corner and on the steering rack. So hopefully you can just massage that in a bit. I'll mark it up, and then once we put the edge on the engine stand, we'll just massage that part around there. Everything else looks good so far. So I've taken off the sump. I've marked out where we need to clear it. Now I'm just going to decide if we're going to cut it or knock it down. Just make sure there's nothing going to be interfering if we bring this down slightly, which it looks like it should be okay, because it's towards the back of the motor and it looks like we should have a bit of clearance above. We should have a bit of clearance above the back there. Just massage the sump down a little bit on that low spot over there. There's not much, but it sort of doesn't need too much, so I won't go too hard. We'll put that back in the engine and see how it fits. This side looks good. Over here. Alright, just need a little bit more around the steering rack. But that's pretty good clearance. Just on this side. a little bit more clearance around the steering rack side. I'll back in. Just clearing. Probably could use a smidgen more. I don't know about the tilt in this motor, but if it's tilted forward we get heaps more clearance, so we might put the gearbox on and see if that gives a more accurate level. Alright, gearbox is on. Hard to see, but looks like we still need to do more clearancing. Definitely a bit more up the steering rack. Right under there. Alright, I've done a bit more clearancing. And you're pretty good for the moment. One tight spot. Under there, pretty good all the way around. Just checking the fit up of the flange. Last time I used a 10mm flange. This is a 12mm flange. It fits up heaps better. The last one I had to weld some little washers on to clamp it on, but that fits quite well. Under there's a nice laser cut. I might have to just open up these ports slightly, get a bit of port flow going. But I have gone with a slightly larger steam pipe this time, so it's a little tighter, so it might need to be massaged in a bit more. Yeah. Time to start stripping out the engine bay, get it prepped for paint. Alright, it's pretty much most of the engine bay stripped. It's filthy, needs a degrease, good clean down. Then we'll start fixing up some rust spots, welding up some holes maybe, and then give it a hit with some primer. Time to start making turbo manifold. I'm going to pull off the 7K intake. I've got a 4K head, spare head that I've got, so I'm going to bolt the flange to that, so hopefully it doesn't warp that much when I weld it. And I'm gonna try to mate the new turbo manifold to the intake, sort of like they've done factory, so it supports the weight of the turbo. The problem I had with the old manifold was the weight of the turbo really pushed on the flange just didn't have enough grab, so I had to actually make an extra support. So hopefully by mounting it like this, it should take a lot of that weight, and maybe I can put another third support off the motor if I need to. So yeah, we'll start stripping this apart. Alright, I'm going to clean up this flange and then start tacking all these things together, try and get it right. Alright, I've tacked up this part of the manifold. Gaps aren't too bad, a little bit big there. It's hard to get all these angles 100%, but I'll TIG this part up now as much as I can. This is my second time TIGging mild steel. Yeah, they look like crap, but looks like they should penetrate. Looks better than my last manifold. Alright, I've welded up the main log. Now I've just got to do these runners. So they're just got to be ground down to fit that log, and then we'll weld them on. Finish off these two runners, but because I'm using a slightly bigger pipe this time, I'm going to cut this one so we can mount it closer, or squeeze them both in, both these exhaust outputs. So I'm going to grind that off and then we'll butt them together, and then we can pinch some holes with this. Got stuffed up when I've welded these up. This is slightly moved. This one is moved and this one's not fitting up as nice as it was before. Got a slight, see that? This one's slightly lifted up, a bit hard to see. I know I've got to shave this one down more anyway to get this fit closer. I might shave that down just a tad. And yeah, hopefully I can save this. Alright, I've done all the main welds. Not my best work, but not my worst work. I'm pretty happy with these shitty welds. They look okay. It looks really solid. Yeah, it's not too bad. If you guys are thinking about doing this, definitely you can do this with a MIG. I've got a TIG because I want to learn, I want to weld aluminium. Aluminium's, I've got a lot of aluminium parts I'd like to make. But if you have to do anything with mild steel, a MIG is great. So I'd highly recommend you just do this with a MIG if you don't have a TIG, because TIG's a little bit more expensive, and MIG you can get quite cheaply. The main difference is a TIG is a much cleaner weld. It's a lot messier, a lot less sparks and splatter, which is quite nice, so you can make your welds look nicer. But the MIG, I mean, still penetrates well and still makes quite good welds. I had to MIG the back because I just couldn't reach my TIG torch in there. You know, that welded nice. I mean, it's a messier weld when you look at the rest of them, although my welds already look like crap. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to TIG. So I'm looking forward to what I can do with a TIG weld. That's really good. Probably is an issue with this. I was trying to make enough clearance so I could get sockets in and out, and it's pretty tight. These I might just need to shave off a bit of this so I can get clearance down to a bolt there. These top ones are fine. These are a little tight as well. So I'll do a bit more clearancing, and hopefully I haven't stuffed this up too bad where I need to remake it. But it's a bit tight for my liking. On the last manifold, they were really awkward to get in and out. In fact, taking off the manifold is really time consuming. So because the way they had to get to the bolts. So I'm going to see if I clearance this and it helps, and if not, I might have to do this again. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. Alright, I've done a heap more clearing to get nuts and bolts to sort of fit. So around edges, over here, probably taken a bit more material than I actually wanted to, but it's either that or I remake it. I may remake it. I'll see how this goes once I whack the turbo flange on, but it looks pretty solid at the moment. I've re-welded on the inside of the runners where it's a bit thin, put a bit more extra layers there, and I've just grind that back to smooth it out. So yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. I'm going to put on the intake manifold and see how everything lines up. Alright, I've bolted that up to 7K. We're going to place it in the engine bay and do some turbo placement. Started messing around with some turbo placement. I'm going to put on the alternator first before I decide on the final placement, because that's the only thing that's close enough to the turbo which might conflict, and potentially some water lines. So I'll pop the alternator back on and see how the turbo fits. Started chopping a 2-inch 90-degree angle steam pipe bend, and it would need another piece to give it the angle and height that we need. I've got a 45. It's a little short, but I think if I can get that right, I might just be able to extend it, maybe an edge of that. So I'm going to give the 45 a shot first, or secondly I should say, and see if that has better fitment and gives us a better angle. So we'll see how that one goes. Alright, I've ended up sticking with the 90-degree angle, and I use a 45 to make a pie cut. So that gave me the extra length I needed. So that part will connect to the log, this part will connect to the T2. Been messing around with the angles, it's pretty close. So I'm going to weld these up, then go back to the car, adjust, and then maybe tack this onto the log and make a hole in the log. tacked on the turbo. Oh, sorry, just tacked on the flange, T2 flange to the turbo. I think it needs to go further this way, so I might cut it off and bring it closer towards the engine. But that's all I'm done for today, so that's all you're going to see for the moment. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a like and please subscribe.